So thanks for coming again.
You're very welcome.
You know, we decided that it would be good to sort of talk about the trash collection in terms of, we've been on the 2-and-2 day for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And there's also just issues that always face the community that we're hoping to see addressed, and maybe have some plans of in action that we can do to get things taken care of. A lot of them, as you know, I'll just start with, well, some things that I addressed to you earlier,
Yeah.
which was, I think that there's a sense that the change in from the 3-and-1 to the 2-and-2 day pickup didn't quite make a change in the amount of trash that's still on the street, like in terms of the time it's out there. We're not sure why. I know that some of the recycling has been out there a little bit longer than noon, sometimes 1, which also impacts, you know, just the quality of life in terms of the cleanliness. We had a big weekend of move-ins. Obviously, a lot of Boston did on September 1st, and we're hoping that maybe there's something we can do in place for those weekends in particular, especially for those residents living on Endicott Street, that you have a feast, and then you also have couches out on the street. Is there something that we can do to make that a little bit smoother for the weekend of the move-ins? I'll let my fellow council members speak to some other issues that they've heard from residents, but again, we're just hoping that we can come up with, whether it's enforcing pickups a little bit more, or other ideas that you may have that we can implement, and see if we can make sure that trash is picked up more efficiently.
Okay, if you want me to touch on a few things that would be essential, or...
And just, some council members want to just add a couple things that they've heard, or we can wait until he's done, whatever you want to wait. All right, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so a few things. John had sent me 2 or 3 things to address. Number one, on the 2+2, we are now in the 3rd year of a 5-year contract. So this is the 3rd year of going from the 3 trash collection Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with 1 recycling day, to Mondays and Fridays with the addition of the extra recycling day. The purpose of that was to reduce the amount of times that the trash was out on the street. So we looked at it as, instead of the trash being out there 6 days a week, which is, you know, the night before and the day of, reducing it to 4. The rules state that you can put your trash and recycling out at 5 o'clock the night before. So one of there were a couple of major reasons for it. Number one was to increase the recycling rate, conversion rate for the entire city of Boston, but certainly for the North End and some of the denser neighborhoods in Boston proper. And also to, again, reduce the amount of time that the trash was out on the street, because the more hours that trash is sitting out on the street, that's a direct contributor to the amount of litter that you're going to see in the neighborhood. We've seen, since we made the switch, we've seen the recycling rates in Boston proper, which includes the North End, Chinatown, Beacon Hill. We've seen the recycling rates go up by 17%, which is fairly significant to the Public Works Department. One of the things we've heard is that, well, it's you know, the Monday and Friday is too long a time to you know, to be keeping the trash and recycling in middle school. Could it possibly be Monday and Thursday? It was one of the things we looked at 3 years ago when we put the new contracts out to bid. Was switching to Thursday. We felt at the time that just making that switch in addition to the reduction of 1 trash day was going to be too much, too quick as far as the change goes. However, my boss, Commissioner Dunhee, and the Public Works Department and the administration is looking. We want to revisit that once the 5-year contract is coming to a close. So maybe we can look at Boston proper, and specifically the North End is going to maybe a Monday and Thursday. So that's some of the things, but we can't change it right now in midstream, because to make a change to the trash recycling contracts are it would just be too expensive. And that's not what the contractors bid on at the time 3 years ago. The times that are out there, recycling tends to get picked up a little slower than your residential trash does, because we don't have as many, contractor doesn't have as many trucks, recycling trucks, as with the trash trucks. So that's why you see somewhat of a delay in the trash trucks. Typically, you know, I don't have to tell you that the North End is a very difficult place, as Beacon Hill and Chinatown, to collect the trash and recycling. But we typically try to, our goal is to try to get out of the North End for both trash and recycling by noon. Sometimes it goes over, for sure, particularly with the recycling, because again, there's less trucks. Also, we see, particularly around late August into September with student move-ins, we see almost our entire operation getting delayed just because of the sheer volume that we're faced with. Some other things, code enforcement, the 5 p.m. rule. If we now have shifts on code enforcement that are 7 days a week. If you see trash or recycling that is placed out before, you know, for Sunday at 5 p.m., we strongly encourage you to call 311 or use the 311 app to report that to our code enforcement. I can assure you they will respond. That's how pretty much we're driven these days with the Public Works Department, is that it automatically goes into 311, whether by phone call or by the app. It goes immediately to code enforcement, they dispatch an officer. So if there's particular streets that you see have been problematic, whether it's an Endicott Street or whatever, if you can give those to me, I'll make sure that we have the code enforcement police directly patrolling those on Sundays and Wednesdays. The trash pickers, it's a problem throughout all of primarily our denser neighborhoods like the North End. You have the trash pickers going through, you put your trash out, maybe properly contained, nice and secure in a plastic bag. Trash picker comes through, they rip open the bag, they're going through there looking for bottles, or they're going through recycling, looking for the returnables. That is a police issue. It's come up. The South End neighborhood has really been on this issue for a while, but it's a little frustrating. It's a police issue, but you can imagine where that falls in there as far as their list of priorities. So there's not a whole lot the Public Works Department can do about that. It's a Boston police issue. The recycling bins and having some dedicated locations where would have larger containers for the residential neighborhood at large to access during off times. We've looked at some of that because I've heard that they do it in other places. Italy is one location that we've heard a lot about. We've entertained that in the past about putting some containers in locations, but it comes with a lot of negatives also, because what we've found, and we tried something in the South End for a bit, and what happens is they wind up turning into transfer stations. So basically what you have is people dumping all sorts of stuff into them. You'd have to staff it, and you'd have to monitor it. Whether, because you'd be opening yourself up to anybody driving up from who knows where, dumping stuff into the container. You could also possibly have commercial properties using that for their purposes also. So it's something we've looked at, but we've dismissed just because of the problems that go into it. One of the other things is where you put it. You know, do you put it in front of, you know, Phil's house or in front of somebody's restaurant or, so, you know, there's no good place to put it. So that's another thing. It's not like we're totally disregarded it, but it comes with a lot of issues. I think that's it for right about now.
As to the, I mean, we know the pickers is the police, but, you know, they're still, I guess the Public Works is still coming from their pickup schedule to get the recycling anyway. So yes, we can't stop the pickers, but the fact that there's open bags and stuff like that, where does all that go? Is that just left on street cleaning?
No, what should be happening is the contractors are directed to make the best effort to clean something up. Typically, if they pick up a bag and it's been ripped and all of a sudden, you know, they pick it up to throw it in the truck and all of a sudden it's ripped and it's all over the place, they're supposed to have broom and shovel and do their best to pick that up. The stuff that's been laid out there by pickers, sometimes they're gonna get that, sometimes they're not. I'm just being honest with you. And yeah, that falls. However it got there, it all comes back to the Public Works Department. We have to pick it up. We'd ask that you give us a hand by just informing us of where those locations are by 311, and I can assure you by the end of the day, it's going to be gone. Typically, it'll be gone within a few hours.
May I make a suggestion? One of the issues we're having in the neighborhood right now, and we talked about it last time, when we talked about having the garbage picked up only twice a week and adding the recycling. I don't think it's a bad idea. The recycling is a good idea. I think that now that we only have 2 days of pickup, it is wise to separate the recycling from your garbage because you have to live with your garbage, and bags of recycling are a lot friendlier than bags of garbage. So the least amount of garbage you have, the less odors and all that stuff you have in your house, and the plastic and the bottles and the cans, you rinse them, they don't smell. The issue that we have is that the garbage gets picked up at one time and the recycling gets picked up hours later. So that pitch that the city made to us of we're going to have less garbage on this, we're going to have garbage on the street for less time. Yeah, the garbage is there less time, but the recycling, which is also garbage, because we're disposing of it, is there that much longer. So I don't know if it's convenient for the city or something that the city can do. It would alleviate traffic jams in our neighborhood while we're having garbage collection Mondays and Fridays, 2 heavy days of delivery and everything else, if we had the garbage truck being followed by the recycling truck. And at the very least, I think you will get a lot less calls and a lot less complaints. Most of it will be picked up. And then, you know, you have your street cleaning, you have your sweepers, you have your this, you have your that, you're going to get your phone calls, you know. There's certain pockets in the neighborhood was a disaster, and you get the phone calls. We make the phone calls, so you get them. And somebody comes over, either tags, bags, and takes it away, or whatever. But the main issue that we're having right now is the one thing that you guys sold us with the 2-day-a-week garbage and recycling, adding that extra day of recycling to alleviate the garbage problem we have. But the fact that you're not picking it up at the same time, the result is the same that we have when we had 3 days. And at the very least, the majority of the population in the neighborhood believes that with 3 days, we live with our garbage in our premise less than we do now. Now, we live with our garbage. Most of us have learned to live with our garbage. I walk late at night when I go home after work. And people are putting their regular trash bags, they're putting their clear bags with their recycling or their containers. The issue is that once the garbage gets picked up, the rubbish is still on the street because the recycling is there, the bags are still there, and the longer they're there, the more they get displaced, you know? And that would be something that you would solve 2 issues. One of them, you would have everything picked up at once, so thereafter, the rest of the day will be for the problem areas that you have to deal with regularly, and you will alleviate traffic. Instead of having a garbage truck stopping every so many feet to collect garbage at 7 and one at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you will have it all take place at once. You know, the noise, the nuisance will be one time during the day, and the optics of having garbage everywhere till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Particularly Fridays seem to be more of a problem because Monday to Friday is a longer collection time for us. You know, it's 5 days of garbage instead of 2 days of garbage, which most people go out and don't eat at home and go away on weekends, you know. It would really help us, and it would, you know, I don't think it's an incredibly difficult thing to do. You know, I think it's easier than stopping the scavengers. I think it's, you know, and it would actually, you will get immediate, a positive response from the neighborhood, you know.
You know, a couple of things. One of the things is, there's less recycling that's put out than there is trash. And as far as the operational end of it, I'd like to get my colleague, Rob DeRosa, who heads up our waste reduction, maybe we can get him, and because he lives and breathes this. But one of the things I do know, regarding what you're suggesting, is there's less recycling picked up. So not everybody's putting out recycling, unfortunately. So if you have trash truck followed by recycling truck, they're going to get stuck behind one. And it's just, so that's one of the things that is difficult with that. The other thing is trash and recycling collection is, it's not my appointment. It's a very difficult endeavor with a lot of moving parts. You're also dealing with manpower issues, people calling sick. You're dealing with equipment breakdowns. So to say that, okay, we're going to come in and we're going to have all of your recycling and trash collected by 10 a.m. would be lying to you. Particularly we see on Fridays, we see heavier volume on Fridays. So I'm not sure what the dynamic at play there is, but you see more of that. So, and when you said we tried to sell you, and I was involved in all of those meetings a few years ago, is what we were trying to sell, if you will, was with the 2+2 and the elimination of the Wednesday trash day, you're eliminating almost 2 days of trash being out there. That's what we were saying, trash is going to be out there less amount of times. We never made the promise that, or the guarantees that we were going to have trash collected and recycling collected by noon, because if we did, it was, we'd be lying to you. We'd be lying to you. Now what I can do is, I will go back and I'll talk to Rob DeRosa and Commissioner Dennehy, and I'll say we have some concerns about the amount of time that recycling is staying out in the north end, particularly on Fridays. Is there anything we can do to tweak the contractor's schedule, the number of the pieces of equipment, to see if we can improve on that? That I will do when I can get back to Maria or John.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but the whole goal from us, our understanding, and I think your understanding, was that we will probably end up with a better end product, which will be cleaner streets, and that's not happening. That's really the point I'm trying to drive, is that that is not the case. Our streets are equally dirty as they were when we have pickup on Wednesdays.
I would tend to disagree with you.
Well, we all live here, and I mean, I don't know if you want to do a show of hands, but most of us believe so. I mean, mind you, this is a very heavy traffic area. We have all sorts of complex issues. We have tourists, we have events, we have tons of construction. We have all those things, and that's understood, you know. But again, having a recycling out till 1 o'clock in the afternoon for our local residents and for our businesses is a shame, you know, and we shouldn't have it. And mind you, maybe the idea is 2 days of garbage collection, 1 day of recycling, different days. Maybe we'll pick up recycling on Wednesday, you know, and then you just have to pick up recycling at 7 o'clock in the morning instead of having to follow each other, or on Thursdays, or on Friday, or, you know, or a day that. No, I understand. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand it's impossible, not impossible, but difficult. But still, you know, our concern is that we're not. The end product for us is not a clean neighborhood.
You may have missed the beginning. One of the things we're in the third year of a 5-year trash and recycling contract. We may be looking at switching to Monday and Thursday at the end of the 5 years.
It will make sense.
You know, but again, there's always a ripple effect. So then you're going to have trash recycling in your house Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. So there's do you want it in there all the weekend instead of getting picked up on Friday? So there's all sorts of things, but just as we did with the the last trash contract, we'll be coming out and talking to groups such as yourself.
Frank, I respectfully disagree with my colleague George. I live in North Square, and I think the streets look, at least in North Square, they look fine. But you mentioned a moment ago about you don't have as many recycling trucks as you do garbage trucks. When you rebid the contract in a couple of years, is there a possibility, if the concern is recycling stays in the street too long, could you mandate you need to have X amount of pieces of machinery as recycling trucks to keep up with getting it off quickly? Is that even an option?
Yes, because hopefully as the recycling rates continue to go up, which we hope they're gonna do, that means that we're gonna be collecting more recycling and less amounts of trash. So there's gonna have to be an adjustment made. So, okay, we're picking up more recycling, we're gonna need more recycling trucks. And so again, it'll hopefully we'll be providing more equipment, but that's, everything we'll be looking at is all of the tonnage and the percentage rates. As when we, you know, when they get into these trash and recycling contracts, it's very, you know, they spend an awful lot of time with it because it's such a critical service.
One of
But
the things.
to answer your question, that would definitely something that would be looking
Well, one
at.
of the things, Mr. O'Brien, again, you know, I'm recycling. I live in a small apartment and it helps me not to keep so much garbage, okay? But I need some encouragement from part of the city. If it gets picked up accordingly, I'm much more eager to put it out at the, you know, in the fashion it needs. It takes two to tango, you know, you can't say, well, people recycle more when they first started, but people are seeing it in the, people, you know what the concept is? Hey, if I put in my garbage bag, it's gone at 7. All right, so you need to figure out a way in which you can convince people, hey, don't put it in your garbage, we're gonna pick it up and we're gonna get it off the streets. It's that simple. Sean is fortunate, North Square is a pretty gentrified part of the North End, it's a very wide street. There's no housing on one of the sides of the building he lives in, but the same folks in his building complained about garbage collection not too long ago when the project will go, a project would increase the amount of garbage in that area went on. Again, I'm convinced that the recycling part of your project is a good idea, okay? Because it facilitates how much garbage I keep at home, and cans and bottles don't smell, they're not dirty. If I rinse them quickly, it's not a bad thing. But I think you've lost a lot of those folks who started recycling by keeping the recycling on the street till 1 o'clock, all right? Until they put it in their garbage bag, they tie it up, and it's gone at 7.
He's good, he'll go back and we'll get some answers with that.
Sean,
Yeah.
What, can I just,
one suggestion there, like you did last year with the contract, you guys intend to go back to the community
Oh,
and take a look at what the community wants and don't want and wants changed, and build it into your contract.
Oh, how many meetings did we
Well,
have?
I just want to make sure.
But,
I mean, they just changed the BRA, maybe they're changing their policy.
yeah, well,
I'd like to just hear from somebody else in the council, if Danielle, Brett, anybody.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with people about this, and I think you touched on pretty much all the residential trash things that I've discussed with people. Commercial trash, I've gotten a few calls in the past few months about people, you know, commercial businesses and restaurants that are not disposing of their trash properly. And, you know, I've kind of thought through a lot of it, and I have some questions I don't even know the answers to. Are they required, like a restaurant, are they required to have a closed bin that they put their trash out in?
I should know.
No, no.
I don't think they are.
I
And
wish
why
I had
is
Steve
that?
Tangle from Code Enforcement with me.
Yeah, I don't think they are from the research I've done, which I don't really understand. If there's an
Answer's no.
establishment
Well-
that's serving food,
May I?
yeah.
There are some businesses in the neighborhood that don't use containers.
Mhm.
I don't find that appealing. I think I own business in the neighborhood, and we use the toters, and we have 7-day pickup, and we have a relationship with the person who picks up the garbage. One of the things you need to know, there was a South Park contractor that was picking up garbage for certain places in the neighborhood, and it wasn't picking up in time. That contractor is no longer working in the neighborhood. Many people call the city, they call the 311, and they call the different people, that contacts we have there, and that contractor is not picking up garbage in the neighborhood. Most of the garbage is not out there. I don't think that putting your garbage out for a restaurant in a plastic bag is a good idea.
You know, the answer is no, they don't need it sold. Right? Nico does it every day, when they just pour it out on the.
No, I know, I
Not
understand,
required.
I'm not telling you it's required or not, but
No,
it's not
fair.
it's not a good
So,
idea.
I mean, is there a way to maybe make that mandatory and maybe even set some designated hours? Because the other thing was this restaurant that, and a friend of mine owns it, the person across the street, who's another friend, said, you know, even though they have a tote, they dump more bags on top, and the seagulls rip it open, and then their trash person doesn't come until noon or 1, so it sits on the corner. I mean, is there a way to require them to put it in a bin and require it to be picked up, you know, overnight even? Because that's also a concern with, you know, tourists and residents that were walking by that all day
Danielle,
long.
the requirement is gets picked up at night.
It is.
It is, and
Okay.
the contractor that was doing that is not doing it any longer.
Mhm.
You know what I'd like to do is, I'd like to talk to Steve Tanko, who's the head of our code enforcement division. What I want to do is get you chapter and verse
Yeah.
on commercial disposal.
It's 6 PM to 7 AM. I spoke to him before,
Yeah.
a few times actually.
But one of the issues also is a lot of places don't have the space for totes, that type of thing. But the inspectional service is also involved, they have site cleanliness acts. But if you see something, again, I'm just a broken record, but 311, if
Yeah.
you see it out there, I don't care what time, day or night, is code enforcement will respond to that.
Yeah, but I mean, and I can say myself, I mean, I was living next to Pinkberry, which is now closed. They were the worst. They had trash bags on the ground for 6 days in a row, the same bags, no one picked them up. We called code enforcement, no one ever showed up. So I also think that there's not enough of a deterrent. I mean, the fines, there's not enough of a deterrent. They just take the fines and they don't really care. So is there any way to increase the fines or require the bin, something? I mean, I just think it's, you know, you said Italy, and of course, I wouldn't propose that we put, you know, big, you know, we take parking spaces and create barrels, because it's just not gonna happen, it's not our culture. But they would never think to put a trash bag on the ground, because it's disgusting, and that's what happens, it gets ripped open. So even just to require the totes, and I will say that the restaurant that since has changed, and they get picked up consistently at, you know, 2 AM, they've never been a problem again. They have these huge totes and they drag them up and down about 30 stairs, you know, to take it in and out, because that's what they have to do,
Yeah.
you know, to keep clean. So some of that to be enforced, and I mean, if there's not a requirement for an establishment that sells food to be putting their trash in bins,
Yeah.
I think that's something that should be looked at.
John, maybe if I could, maybe if I can get you the commercial trash collection guidelines,
Yeah, that'd be great.
and if I can get them to you, maybe if you could.
Yep.
Thank you.
If I may say though, considering that we have 120 restaurants and garbage gets picked up 7 days a week, on the commercial end,
Mhm.
garbage is picked up. I tell you, the issue that we have on the one plus in the commercial end is that if my service provider who's charging me top dollar to pick up my garbage, not picking it up, I change it, you know, I mean, I'm not hold by any contract with somebody who doesn't do their job right. You know, the totes, as Mr. Ryan says, can be very difficult for small places. Some places don't have backyards, some places don't have basements, some places are very, very small. But at the end of the day, if the garbage gets picked up in the middle of the night, like it does for most restaurants, gets collected, even if the tote is there empty in the morning, it's not an issue. With the 2-day pickup, we have had an increase of people who come over, take their apartment garbage and put it in your bin, which reflects in yardage. Yardage is when you start getting charged for somebody else's garbage. One of the things that I witnessed in the neighborhood too, which is quite kind of funny, late night, van pulls up, opens up the side door. They got a van full of black tied up garbage bags, and they're putting it in commercial garages. You know, people who don't even live in the neighborhood. So, you know, it's an issue.
I've used the term before with the north end. It's like a perfect storm for litter and trash and you know, the rodent population. I don't have to tell you, just because you've got an extremely dense neighborhood, you've got a ton of commercial establishments, and just through all of those factors. And it's similar to, you know, so many of the basements in the north end have been converted to garden apartments, where that's where trash used to be stored, and now there's no room to put, you know, we'd love to have toters, residential toters, but there's no place to put them. So it's the north end's always been difficult. We feel, the Public Works Department, and I've been doing this for almost 30 years, we feel like we've made a lot of strides in the north end.
I agree.
Compared to what it used to be. I mean, when I come over here before, I had to do one of these. But we still got ways to go. And it's, the biggest problem that we have is both the containerization of both the residential and the commercial trash. That's our biggest problem.
To the city's credit, during the central area where we're doing a lot of extermination and stuff like that, extermination is key too, you know, I mean, we do, the rats are gonna live with us whether we're clean or dirty, and they will find our food one way or the other, you know? But at the end of the day, you know, the pest control is huge, you know, I mean, we do pest control in our businesses, most landlords do pest control on their property. We also need the city to maintain that and continue. The moment you leave a space, you know, if you have a piece of property and you miss a monthly visit or a bi-monthly visit, they catch up with you, you know what I mean? And that's the same thing with the city, you know what I mean? On the same token. Now, we have a sporadic pest control. We don't have consistent, but when we have it, you don't see them around. We've had a rise on rodents in the last couple of months, and it's time to do it again.
Well, you know, hopefully, when water and sewer is finished with all of their, you know, significant work, and, you know, then we come in and you're gonna, you know, new roadways, and, you know, that sewer system, is gonna be, you know, fairly new. Hopefully, that's gonna take a lot of the problems away from we want that. But if we don't get rid of the food source, there'll always be some, you'll always have some kind of problem.
Okay, anyone else on the council? Victor?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a suggestion to pick up on Sean Hennessy's observation to look at the bid specifications. That is, when the 5 years runs out and you rebid, perhaps you can simply add a time of day when the work of the successful bidder must be completed.
That goes back to the vehicle count though, right?
It could be considered, but again, it's, there's a lot of moving parts to it.
Well, the vehicle count is, I mean, is that something you put in the
Oh, the
specifications?
vehicle count, well, I thought you meant as far as okay.
No, I was
finished by 10 a.m.
It seemed to me that it would be easier to put a time, an hour limit that the garbage or recycling must be picked up by a certain hour. The work must be completed by a certain hour. That would be easier than dictating the number of trucks that the bidder would have to employ.
Yeah, it's something we can look at. But just with trash collection and recycling, there's always ebbs and flows to it as far as the volume goes. So it may be something that would be difficult to, you know, to enforce across the board, you know, every single week of the year. Student move-in, Christmas, you know, holidays, you're always going to see your volumes escalate. But again, last thing, the number of trucks, if the recycling rate continues to rise, you're going to, well, okay, Public Works going to have to collect more recycling. It makes all the sense in the world that the contractor's going to have to bring trucks to the recycling to get it out in a timely fashion. I promise you, I will talk to both Commissioner Dennehy and Rob Rose, the head of waste reduction, tomorrow to see what we can do, if we can tweak the recycling collection.
You'll get more people to recycle if you get it on there. If you get it right, you'll get more people to recycle, which helps around everybody.
All right, thank you.
Frank, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.